Supervisors to order. Purpose of the special meeting. Mr. Stevens, please call the roll.
Mr. McGlennon?
Here.
Ms. Larson?
Here.
Mr. Hippel?
Here.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Here. I need to take a motion to allow Ms. Sadler to participate remotely due to illness. So
move.
we have a motion. Mr. Stevens?
Mr. McGlennon?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, Sue, you are officially part of the meeting. Can you hear us?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good. All righty. We have board discussion and guidance. The public hearing is an ordinance to amend and reordain Chapter 2 to establish a center for absentee voting in person. And we are fortunate to have Ms. Diana Moorman, General Registrar, to give staff presentation, and after which we will open a public hearing.
Getting used to this new process. Thank you, members of the board and county administrator, for having me here. It is always an adventure to have a presidential election, and this one is no different than what we've had, or it is completely different from what we've had in the past. Woo! It's interestingly, we do have the same three methods that we have always done. It's just a little bit more intense than what we've previously had. I am requesting that we move our operations for the 45-day no excuse absentee voting that is now into effect over to the James City County Recreation Center, and we are now going to affectionately call it the James City County Vote Center. This will allow voters to go in and out of the process much faster than going into our office. Currently, due to COVID restrictions and the sheer size of our office, we are limited our lobby into one person or one immediate family at a time into the office. We are projecting towards the end of the election cycle that we will have anywhere between 500 and 1,500 in a day go through the building, and that just is not something that we can accommodate in our building. So I am requesting that we move it to the Recreation Center at 5301 Long Hill Road in order to accommodate the voters. I want to make sure that this is a permanently established location in order to help calm voters' questions and help give a little bit more voter confidence to the system here in the county. Currently, we still have voters that are going to Building B, which is our office that we had 8 years ago, to request applications and to try to vote absentee and register to vote. So we want to make sure that this is an established place so that voters will know going forward that we are in the same location, just to kind of help them out. So that's what we are looking at.
So do you see, so would you move where will you physically be?
What we will physically do is we will keep our operations still in my office and still in our building at 5300 Palmer Lane, and that will be our vote by mail processing center, if you will.
Okay.
We've had to change our entire building into a vote by mail processing center. This has really become a problem, not a problem, but it just has provided a little bit different processing than what we've done in the past. Previously, we used to be able to just have myself and my deputy process all of the applications in our office. And we've since had to shift an entire section, which would have been the place that we processed our voters that would come into the building, have them fill out the applications, and that is now all by mail. We have such a high volume of vote by mail that we've not had in the past. So we will have that in the office at 5300 Palmer Lane. We will still accept ballots to be dropped off at the office there. However, we will also be establishing a ballot. It's not a drop station. We're calling it a drop-off station just so it's a little bit easier for voters' terminology. But it's simply just a table outside of the actual indoor conference room to help voters to just show their ID there and drop off their ballot if they don't feel comfortable with mailing it into our office.
Okay. And so moving forward, once we get past this election, what do you see? I mean, even with COVID and a possible vaccine at some point, I mean, we've got a gubernatorial next year. So what are you thinking this might be something, or at some point we might have to look at doing something more permanent that works better?
In the long run, in the perfect world, we would have it all under one roof, and we would not be taking the income that the James City County Recreation Center, the conference rooms, provides to the county. Currently, that is our only option. When we've talked to Mr. Stevens about this, before the COVID even hit and the pandemic hit, projecting, and it's not, COVID compounds the problem, but right now what we're facing is this 45-day no excuse absentee voting. And because that removal of the application of saying that, hey, I had to have a reason to not be able to go to the polls on election day, that has kind of opened the floodgates, if you will. And projecting what North Carolina turnouts, it is 60% of the total turnout now votes absentee. And that is the driving force for this, the high turnout volume that we are now going to be seeing from this point forward. So it will stay in this place until further notice. I do know that in the primaries, we've already got the room booked. However, to try to help a little bit, we have condensed it down to one of the conference rooms instead of the two. And hopefully that will negate a little bit of the impact on the recreation center, because that's certainly not our intention, but we just have no place else to go.
And then my last question would just be some assurance possibly, or maybe could you just take a moment to speak about the process? There seems to be a lot of chatter regarding the validity of absentee or no excuse or mail-in. And I mean, I know I've known you a long time. Your character is not in question at all. But it just seems to be kind of, I'm sure you're fully
Yes.
aware. Could you just explain a little bit about how safe the process is?
Certainly. Well, James City County and the voters across the Commonwealth have 3 options. And one of those has 2 options for returning their ballots back. The first process is to request a ballot by mail. And they have the choice that we can mail their ballot to them. Once they choose that ballot or choose that option, we then mail their ballot to them. We have within 3 days once the 45 days starts. So all of the applications currently that we are required by law to get those out by on or before September 18th. So from that point forward, we will mail ballots out. The process in our office and the procedures is in by 5 o'clock that day, out the next day. So we then mail the voters' ballots to them. And then they have, it used to be election day by 7 p.m. to get the ballots back to us, regardless of when we mail their ballots to them. And now that has since been extended as well. And they will have until noon on Friday after the election to get the ballots to us if it is postmarked on or before election day. If they do not feel comfortable with the mail, as everybody's been listening to the news and the voter confidence is just not there for the mail, they do have the option of bringing the ballot back to our office at the vote center and providing providing identification to prove that they are the person on the ballot. Currently, code says that it must be the voter that returns the ballot. The only way that we can make sure that that happens is that we do check that identification to just help mitigate ballot harvesting. So you can't just go and say, hey, I'm going to the registrar's office. Can I take your ballot? Can I take your ballot? And then suddenly you have 15 ballots. So that is why we do check the identification for the voter bringing their ballot back. So that is the one process. The second one is they don't have to have a ballot. They don't have to have anything. They just come into the vote center starting September 18th and ending at 5 p.m. on October 31st. We're also open the 2 Saturdays prior to the election. And code says that you've got to be open for 8 hours on those 2 Saturdays. And I just made the executive decision. I'm sorry, we've got our chairman for the electoral board here, and I haven't told him yet, but we are extending the hour on the Saturdays, which I'm sure he's okay with, that we will match the hours for the rest of the week. So we'll be doing 8 to 5 instead of 9 to 5 on those Saturdays to just help those early risers go and vote if they are able to. So that is the second option, just voting in person, and they will walk in, show their ID. It's no longer a photo ID. We will ask their name, their full address, and we are now only allowed by law to repeat just their full name, as opposed to what we had in the past was repeating their address as well. So that's a little bit more voter privacy built in. And so they will get their ballot, walk over, insert it into the machine, get their I voted sticker and some hand sanitizer. So to complete the process. And then the third option, which is always how it has been traditionally, and that is going to the polls on election day. The rec center is only open for Jamestown B on that day. It is only open for those voters that are assigned to that precinct. So we have 19 precincts that are open that day, and that is the third option for voters to simply go on that day and vote just as they always have, again with an ID and getting their ballots.
Said that was my last question, but do
Sure.
you have enough volunteers for Election Day?
Currently, we do. We had a 10% attrition rate less than 24 hours before the June 23rd primary. 10% of the people dropped out and said, oh, you know what, I've decided I'm not going to go, it's not safe. So I would much rather overstack those precincts and make sure that we are completely up to standard and making sure that we are taking care of everybody as much as possible than for us to be shorthanded. Virginia election law says that we only have to have 3 officers of election to work a poll, and that is what a legal poll is. However, we have one precinct that is kind of encroaching on the 6,000 person mark. So you tell me how we would be able to run a precinct effectively with only 3 people. So that's currently we are okay, but we will never turn anyone away.
Thank you.
Those were great questions. I appreciate it.
I've got a couple of questions too, and thank you very much for coming today. Obviously, this is a subject of a lot of concern with a lot of folks this year, both because of the stakes of the election and because of the health situation. And I know that this has put a lot of pressure on your office to deal with it, and a lot of citizens are very concerned about both the security of their ballots and the ability to make sure their votes are counted. So let me ask a couple of questions that I think might be helpful for folks to understand. Let's start with the voting in person early, and that process itself. Will the individual just fill out the ballot and feed it into a machine at that point?
That is correct.
Right. So it will not be a matter in that case. Even, and I assume, I think I've heard that if somebody mails in or drops off their mail ballot, that would also be prepared for tabulation so that the results should come in on the night of the election.
That is correct. If you have within the second and third option, if you go in to vote in person, it is just like Election Day. You go and insert your ballot into the machine, and voters can actually look at the little digital screen. It's actually, if you're facing the ballot box in the machine, there's a screen, an LED screen, and you can see on the bottom right-hand side that the count goes up by 1 as soon as your ballot goes into the feeder. And that is totally secure and confidential, and we have no idea what the results are until after 7 p.m. on election night when those tapes are tabulated. For the ones that have, that's for the in-person and also on election day, for those voters that do vote by mail, just to kind of give you an idea of the numbers that we're facing right now, 4 years ago we had just over 3,000 that we mailed total for that election, and that was just by mail. And we had 7,000, just over 7,000, that we had total for the entire absentee process for James City County. For this one mailing, we are almost at 10,000 ballots that we will be mailing out for our first mailing on September 18th. And because of that many, there's no physical way that we can go through and get all of those ballots counted on election day and properly to make sure that we are not there until 5 o'clock in the morning. So there is a way that we can do this, and it is in accordance with code, and that is called pre-processing. And we will be doing that starting the first weekend of October, and we have a team of I'm assigning them as general registrars. Code says that it must be general registrar that counts them. So I will be assigning them and appointing them as assistant general registrars. And it will be representatives from both sides of the parties, or both parties rather, and it will be an equal amount for both sides. And they go through, and what they do is they open that envelope up, and without looking, they pull the envelope out. They pull the ballot out, put it into a box, and they keep doing that for the entire precinct for everything that we have to date for that precinct. Once they are all open, 2 people have verified that that ballot is out of the envelope and it is securely clear, they put it into the box. And then at that time, we open the ballots up so we have no idea who voted how, and we actually prefer that they put the ballots face down so that we don't have any idea that we can even keep track of what was filled out. And then we go through and enter as many ballots as we can into a pre-processing machine. And that is how we do the by mail process in order to make sure that they are counted.
Now, this is a question that I've been curious about. So This new extended period of no excuse absentee in-person voting.
Yes.
Suppose somebody shows up at the rec center and requests the opportunity to register and vote. Can they do that?
Currently, they have the ability to register. We're not turning anyone away at the vote center. They can register. However, there is a section in code at this time that says that there's a 5-day hold period, and that is enough time for us to go through, mail their card to them, and then to see if it gets returned. So there is a 5-day hold period to ensure that that voter is truly at that address, to help guarantee that they aren't just coming in and trying to register in every locality across the state and then voting right then.
Okay. So if somebody wants to register, they can do so online?
Yes, sir.
All right. They can come to the registrar's office. They can go to this vote center to register. There just would be that waiting period before they can actually cast the ballot.
Right. The only time that the waiting period is in effect is if they do it in person.
Uh-huh.
So if they come into our office and they want to vote at that time, that is the only thing that there is on hold. If they go in and they register and they put it in the mail and it gets mailed to us and it comes in 3 days, then by law, we are allowed to have them vote at that time. And also just to let you know that voter registration applications are any place that hunting and fishing licenses are sold also. So they are available at Walmart. But we try to make it available as possible. But if you have a valid Virginia driver's license, we encourage everybody to go to the Citizen Portal through the Department of Elections website or through our awesome county website, and that'll also get you there. That helps with the process in ensuring that there's no clerical errors for entering your data wrong.
And so now, having the rec center for this 45-day period is from my perspective, it's great. I know it's a lot of work for you all to deal with, but it's also a long distance for citizens at the opposite ends of the county. And the legislature is working on the possibility of doing some form of drop box. Will we utilize that if it is passed from what you've seen so far of the legislation?
As far as the ballot drop boxes go, we are entertaining the north end and the south end of the county. And again, we will listen to whatever the legislature says. We also have to go by whatever is how it is read by the Department of Elections. So there's a lot of ifs, ands mixed in there right now, and we will comply certainly with whatever they have. If there is one at the north end, the south end of the county, it's the same thing with satellite offices. We have truly looked at the pluses and minuses for those things, and the ballot drop centers will be much more easier to implement, whether it is a box that we put someplace. Our issue right now is the boxes that you see outside, like that are similar to the post office boxes. Those from the vendor that we have that has the best price right now, because they're so swamped. I think Maryland just did the same thing. And we are looking at mid to late October for even being able to get those. So the other thing that we're looking at doing is, because we have wonderful volunteers, we are looking at having one from each party sit at a table from 8 to 5 or whatever time that process or that location is open. And I was entertaining doing it maybe here in Building F. I'm not sure. We're just kind of tossing around ideas of where to set this table up, what is most accessible for the voters. And then we were looking at the north end of the county. The director of the library reached out to us, and we thought that that would be a good place as well for a drop-off center, because it is much more accessible than the EOC or any of the fire stations. So we're looking at everything, and we can't really assess what our best option is until we're told what we need to do.
Okay, well, I certainly would want to weigh in on the side of providing opportunities for people to be able to drop off, especially with the concerns that people have expressed about, the current difficulty the mail system is
Certainly.
having.
We are all for the ballot boxes, and we've actually been getting creative in our office. I've been shopping at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock if I can't sleep at 3:23 in the morning, looking at the different websites for what's available to us for even simply getting boxes that stay on the table that have a locking mechanism, and those would get transported to our office on a daily basis. So that's also a process of, do we have a permanent staff member that goes through the county, once or twice a day to get those ballots, or how does that work? So we're still waiting for guidance from Department of Elections to have that cemented, but we will be putting that out in a press release and putting it on our website. I will have a section for have a ballot that was mailed to you, where can you take it? Kind of section for our website. So we're working on that as well.
And what else can we be doing to help make people aware of the options that they have available to them? And
I would say just send them
make
to
the
the
job easier.
website. That's probably the best thing, is we have it listed there for where they can go. And I'm trying to work with county web developer to see how we can make it a little bit more simple. I was looking at the site the other day and I was like, it's just not as clear as I would like it to be. So I would just have everybody go to the Department of Elections website or to the county website.
Okay, thank you very much.
Couple questions. So the Friday following the Tuesday election
At noon.
at noon, so we may not know anything till after Friday or the following week,
That is correct.
depending on what volume is still hanging out there.
You have to take in consideration, because that's our deadline as well as Northern Virginia's deadline. So
That'll change a
their
lot.
mail capacity is a lot higher than ours is, and that could easily change what the outcome is. Even code says that even though they extended the deadline for that, they did not extend the deadline for certification. So if we are not ready to go by noon on that Friday after, which I have every confidence in the world that we will be, we will have that ready to go, and the results into Department of Elections, hopefully at 5 o'clock on Friday.
Now,
We've already got that.
Is that just the state of Virginia? Is that every state?
State of Virginia. Every state has its own guidelines, restrictions, everything else, and my head is already full for just Virginia. So,
Right,
but it is
so-
just Virginia.
Across the United States, maybe one thing, the state of Virginia may be lagging behind a week.
I have every confidence that we may be someplace in the middle. I don't think that we are by far the last state that will be reporting our results.
Cost of stamps.
Our first mailing right now is with calculations, there's a proposed budget right now that we will be paying for the return postage as well on envelopes. And if that is the case, our first mailing will be almost $11,000 just for postage. The good thing is that there is also in that budget amendment that is being proposed currently, we will be getting a vast portion, if not all of the return postage back to us. And there's, I think, a $2 million proposed allotment for paying the return postage for localities.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about a budgeted item that wasn't budgeted. We look like we're gonna get
Currently.
reimbursed for that.
Again, until legislature passes something
Right.
and the governor signs it, you can look at for mail, it is just on the neighborhood of $1.50 per voter, just for the mail. Because it's the postage for the oversized envelope for everything that has to be put into the ballot. By the way, for anybody that is watching this right now, you do get an I voted sticker, even with the mail ballots. That's a big bone of contention. But we do have the I voted stickers in there. And so it runs right about $1 because of the certificate of mailing that we also have to pay the post office to process and accept these ballots. Because we take these ballots, and I'm working with the postmaster right now, see if they can assign someone to come in on the 18th to take all of these instead of us transporting them all to the post office. But what they do is they go through envelope by envelope, making sure that it matches what we have reported to them that we have done. So they go through and say, yes, you have mailed or included 7,582 ballots, and they count 7,582, write it down, write their name, and that takes the chain of custody from us over to them.
Okay,
So that's the certificate of mailing.
great. And the center will be open September 18th through the 31st?
Correct.
Correct.
September 18th to October 31st.
I mean, October 3rd, yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Halloween. It is a
Halloween.
fluid date, so,
Yep.
but it's easy to remember this time that it is October 31st.
October 31st.
So while
Okay.
everybody's through voting and out trick-or-treating, we will be programming poll books that night after the last voter has submitted their application or submitted their ballot.
And then that's for anyone across the county, because I know there's a lot of confusion. What are they doing? What's going on? What's happening? So it's not like our normal voting routine. This is for anyone in the county, period. Wherever you live, you can go between September 18th and October 31st and cast your vote.
Correct.
Okay.
With
But you-
just an ID.
Just an ID,
Yes.
okay? And how about the, we're seeing a lot of different mailers that are coming in that are not from your office, but they're all, some of them are pre-planned, some of them are blanks, and here's your voter registration. How do the citizens know which is a bogus thing coming in, which is real, you know? Because they're being inundated by all these different mailers that are coming in. It almost feels like you're getting something free from somewhere, all the stuff that's coming in.
Yes, while they have very good intentions, and I understand that they are very excited and driven for this election to make sure that their person wins. There are some third-party organizations that just want to make sure that the voter votes regardless of how they vote. They may have the best intentions, but they may not be getting the mailing list from the Department of Virginia, Department of Elections. So they are legitimate applications. They do come to our office and we do process those. We still have about 3,500 that we have to enter from the last mailing that was sent out across the state. If the voter does know that they filled out an application, we ask just, hey, have patience and let us get the first mailing out. If after September 24th or 25th, you don't get your ballot, then we encourage you to reach out to us and say, hey, we didn't receive the ballot. Can you please just reissue us one? And then we go through and we make notes that there was a ballot reissued. There's a form that they will sign saying, I requested but did not receive my ballot. It's a yellow goldenrod form, and we certainly will reissue the ballot. The problem that we're running into right now is because there are so many different organizations that are doing these mailings. We have one voter. We are on the 13th application that he has submitted to us. 13. So that is 13 more than that we have to process. And every single time that they come in, we have to process it to show, hey, we have this on record and it was submitted to us. And that is a lot of time being spent in our office. Doing triplicates, you name it. So 13 is a lot, and it's been averaging between 3 and 5 per voter in a lot of our time frames. So it's endless work for us.
And that's what I was wondering, if somebody gets one in and they fill it all out and send it off, and then we send them one and, oh, this must be the real one. That one probably wasn't the right one. And they put that, not knowing, not trying to do anything illegal, just thinking maybe that wasn't the right one. This is the one I should send in. But we catch that.
We do. We go through, and if there is something that is not above board, we do actually report that to the Department of Elections. And I have no problems picking up the phone and contacting our Commonwealth's attorney. And I will say, hey, check this out. This is not legal. You need to start. Will you please start doing this investigation? We need to get ahead of this so that it's not happening across the state. But for the most part, it's third-party organizations that have the best intentions.
Right.
It's just not getting the best mailing list.
Yeah, and I, I'm thinking about the people that are sitting out there and say, hey, did you get yours in? Yeah, I sent. No, you're supposed to send one to the county. You're supposed to send the one the county sent us, not this one. Where somebody will get confused, and it's easy to do that and say, okay, I must have put this one in, and now I'm putting that one in, and just making sure that it's still one vote, and regardless of we catch that ahead of time.
Regardless of the process, it still ends up at our office. So they have been gracious enough to put our return address on there, which we are thankful for. That a couple of those mailings ended up getting a lot of confusion. They sent them to all the mailing to Fairfax City, which only has about 8,000 people, 10,000 people, and it was all Fairfax County addresses that they used for Fairfax to mail to Fairfax City. Same thing with Roanoke, Richmond, Franklin, and I'm thankful that we don't have a James City.
Yes.
So,
and the drop off boxes, I think you answered the question. Mine was I was envisioning a metal drop off box where you would stick something in there and it'd be secured to the ground or something. But ours will be for now, and we don't know yet till it's all approved. But it'll be something with someone there on both parties that will then take the box to a location. It won't be something that's just sitting out there, because worry about people vandalizing it. Somebody doing something they shouldn't be doing, touching something that they shouldn't, but our boxes will be able to be transported back and forth.
That is correct. Again, we are awaiting the direction from Department of Elections on that. We had tossed around the idea of a ballot box that is permanently fixed outside to concrete, and we had already discussed it with the county and said, hey, this is the best option. And I still, if we have that option for doing that, I would certainly insist that there would be a camera placed someplace in the vicinity, that it is visible at all times on that machine, that it is a well-lit area. And my concern are, I guess, a lot of different agencies in the government call them bad actors when they have every intention to do something bad to the system. And if they go through and they do a bad actor campaign and drop a match into any of these, I cannot in good confidence say that I would support that.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing would be to do the tabletop manned tables at each of the places that we do have the drop boxes. But again, we are at the mercies of what the state tells us that we need to do.
Right, I understand that. Let's see. So, and this being a new process for all of us, the citizens may think, well, if I vote early, I might get something that says, I voted early, we've got your vote and all that. But it's just like any other election, you vote and it's done. There won't be a message from your office saying, I've got your vote.
There is actually, the legislature just passed an ordinance that says that we are now required to have intelligent barcode system. I'm sorry, not legislature, it was the State Board of Elections. Said that we now have the intelligent barcode system. So that will be something that the voters can go and look up that unique identifier on their envelope and enter it into the I believe it's into the U.S. Postal Service, and it tells where the ballot is. It does not work for those that are overseas. However, we do have it in the system. As soon as we get a ballot back, we immediately scan it into our system as marked. And voters can go into the Department of Elections website and see we did receive the ballot and it was marked. So there is
Okay.
that system that they can go and check themselves.
That's good to know, so the citizens can look that up and see, and if they see, and how long should they let that go before they go in there, if they, a week or?
I would say probably 10 to 15 days.
Okay.
We will be trying our hardest to get those all scanned in as quickly as possible. I do know that we've got teams and we've got computers set up in that new AB processing room that we will be doing that processing. However, it just takes a little bit of time for us to get it all done. So I would say a week to, probably about 10 days after the voter mails it, they can start checking. Or sooner if they want to see when it changes from issued over to marked.
Will if I go into the voter center and I do that, can I then go online later and look to see if I know some citizens will be curious to know, and I'm just trying to.
Well, if you go into the vote center, we check you in, and we build the poll books every single day. So that covers all of those voters that requested the ballot by mail. So we will say, oh, you requested a ballot by mail. Do you have your ballot with you? If they've changed their mind and they want to come in person and vote at that time, they must turn over their blank ballot to us, and we spoil that ballot and we give them a fresh one for in-person voting. And then the chief will have to do that, and then they will be able to go vote. We are requesting that if somebody requests a ballot by mail, that they use that ballot to vote with the mail process, whether dropping it off but they do have that ability to turn their ballot over and vote in person. When it goes in person, we check it right there in the poll book, and that night we upload all of those voter credits into our statewide database, and then at that time the voter gets credit, so it will say marked, or I guess it will say on machine because they put it physically into the machine.
My last question, it sounds like y'all have got everything nailed down as well as you can for everything that's changing constantly daily. So I compliment you and your staff and everyone that works with the voter registry and all the volunteers on the
Thank
hard
you.
work today. That's a lot of work that day and all the days prior to that. And if you've never worked the polls, which I know all of us have, but if you've never worked them as a volunteer, helping us and all the other citizens get through the process, it's a long day and it's a long process just to get up to that day. So thank everyone for all their hard work. How much, or you probably can't tell me because we're not through the process, but I would imagine there's an increased cost in your budget. Hopefully, the state's going to cover that cost because we never have enough money in James City County to cover everything. But I know there's been an increased cost with everything we're doing and setting up and staff and that sort of thing. So, I'd be curious to know as we go through what changes that does as far as your budget, and probably won't know till we're finished this whole process, and how much is covered by the state and how much we're gonna have to cover in James City County. So that I can, just as next year's budget's coming up and that sort of thing, and who knows what's gonna change, if any.
I appreciate that. We were fortunate that each locality was given a base or CARES Act money directly for for the elections office in each of the localities. We were granted $69,000 and change for that. It's like $69,472. I'm not sure, but it was $69,000. And interestingly, I'm not sure what scale they did it. It comes out to $1.43 per voter. We just are hitting the 60,000 person or 60,000 voter mark currently this week, I believe. We were at 59,600 a few weeks ago. So we were given 69,000. That comes out to about $1.43 per person. Interestingly, I don't know where they got their scale, and I will go on record by saying it is horribly skewed. City of Williamsburg got their grant, and their grant is equivalent of $5.05 a voter.
Wow.
So I don't know how that was given and what they told me from Department of Elections, because I went on a hunt to say we need more money. This is not equal across the board. And I was given multiple responses that did not match each other.
Well, they must not have gone by square miles of the locality.
I would be happy that they went by, locality size and how many registered voters we have.
Wow.
It's not comparable.
No, it's not
at all.
At all.
So but I am thankful that we were given something that really did help offset the cost for getting our office up to snuff to accommodate those absentee vote by mail. People think that it's just a simple process of you mail it in and then boom, we get a ballot out. And it takes a lot of work. That one ballot takes a good day, 2-3 to process to make sure that they are done correctly. We have what we call a 2-person rule in our office, and everything that is done is 2 people do the same thing to that ballot to make sure that it is going to the correct place. So it's just time consuming and takes up a lot of space in the building.
Well, if there's anything we can do as far as helping to try to secure state money for, costs that if you incur more costs, and, we'll be more than happy to try to, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure the board would, and see if we could, push the state in any way to try to, help fund that gap that.
I appreciate that.
If the state doesn't fund it, we know we're going to have to fund it. So.
We do try to be as fiscally responsible as possible. There are some things, for instance, Department of Elections, we already had all of our envelopes, and Department of Elections says, oh no, we've changed how we want this. We want all full color envelopes now. We want it to be catching the voter's eye. And so we've had to go through and scrap the envelopes that we had, the thousands of envelopes, and go with this new color, full color envelope. So that it is more helpful for the Postal Service, and it's much more user-friendly for processing, so they can identify it, and it's the same across the state. And but that in itself was something that we did not project, and that's quite a few $1,000s. The ballots of accommodating those that change their mind from voting by mail to voting in person. We're having to order 140% ballots just to accommodate that many voters for changing their minds. It's just a whole new process that there's no way we could have projected this when we were doing the budget. But we've already pretty much exhausted our postage, and thank goodness we will get a portion of that back, hopefully.
Thank you.
Sue, would you have any questions?
Hi, yes, and I apologize if some of these questions, I only have one question really, but it's a little bit echoey and kind of hard to hear. But first of all, and I know that you focus on Virginia, but I've been asked this, I can't tell you how many times, just in your expert opinion, do you have a guesstimation as to when we might actually know the results nationwide of this election?
I would like to say yes. However, there are 50 different factors in play here, and I don't even want to pretend to project what that will be. I will just be happy that Virginia gets out of this smoothly and clearly and in accordance with law. So I would like to give you an answer, but I know that we will have ours set by Tuesday after the election. I can't answer for the rest of the, that would be incriminating for, and that would just be my personal opinion, but I don't have an official answer on that.
Well, I just did want to thank you for all that you do, and I think James City County is very blessed to have you in the position that you're in. I think the citizens and all of us can rest assured that this election here will be fair and safe and honest, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do. I think your office, your department, is probably one of the most important that we have in our locality, in the state, and nationwide, and we are very blessed to have you on board and making us all feel very confident that this is going to be a very fair election here in James City County. So, and I agree with Mr. Hipple in that I think there were a lot of things that you did not foresee with everything that has come down the pike, and you're doing an excellent job balancing all of this and juggling things. And I think financially we need to really take a good hard look in the future to make sure that you have everything that you need location-wise and operating-wise to make sure that the citizens always feel the utmost confidence because you have what you need. So thank you for everything that you do for us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I will say that we have had a fantastic relationship with finance and general services. Our general services office, I cannot say enough great things about them. I say, hey, we need to move these desks, and I'll put a work order in. They'll say, Diana, how can we help you? And hey, we need this. How can we help you? So it has been in our IT department with all the new regulations that Department of Elections has put forward. Oh my gosh, the cybersecurity part is daunting. And they've been helping us navigate. So it's a team effort, and I appreciate that greatly.
I guess I get to wrap up and thank to my compatriots for covering all of my questions. So got it all done. The only one thing I would say is, from my understanding of listening to your presentations before, that the way the absentee ballots will be processed through the machine and the in-person voting will be processed through the machine, so that come election night, when they run the tally of all the machines, you will have pretty quickly a result that would include everything except the absentees that will possibly float in between Tuesday and Friday noon.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's one of those where if we got the count done at 10 o'clock at 9 or 10 o'clock at night of everything that we have at that point, it may show 98% reporting or whatever. But we would have a figure that would be in that would potentially then maybe have a slight adjustment if there were a significant number of ballots that came in after Tuesday but were postmarked before Tuesday or before.
That is correct. We are projecting to have, like you said, the majority of our ballots counted and processed. The polls close at 7 o'clock, and we are projecting to have that done hopefully not much further after that. We will have a couple of precincts. Code says that we have to have 2 optical scanners for any precinct that is over 4,000, and that is at the discretion of the general registrar. I don't know that we're going to need to have that in any place besides one of those places at Norge Elementary, and they'll have to calculate those numbers up and making sure, but I don't see that it's going to be any longer than right after the election. We do also have to take in consideration that there will be write-ins on this ballot.
Yes.
And typically there are a large amount of write-ins if the office is uncontested. And because it is a very highly contested race, we're not projecting a high amount of write-ins. So that will help us get our numbers in quickly as well. But that pre-processing in advance is going to really help make sure that that is done on Tuesday night.
Well, I wanted to thank you very much, and I will echo my compatriots praise for your office. I think my experience is that all the citizens of James City County can have a very high level of confidence in the security and the integrity of the elections that are run in this county. And
Appreciate that.
I give credit for that to the electoral board, Mr. G, and to Diana, to our registrar, and your folks. I'm after having watched it for quite a while, it's sometimes it's amazing the work you folks do. And I'll close with the kind of praise that I once heard in the military, that you guys are so good that you could nail Jell-O to the side of a fast-moving freight train.
I appreciate that vote of confidence. We have been working 12 to 15 hours and on weekends since July to get this done. And my staff said, and I say, you guys, it's not mandatory you guys come in after or stay past 5. And it's not mandatory you guys come in, and I'll drive past the office and they're all there. I'm like, oh man, now I feel bad. So and that's on a Saturday. It's like, we were talking about Sunday. So I cannot be more pleased with the staff that we have.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we will open the public hearing, and I do have one speaker on this, and that is Mary Ann Simpson.
I can take the mask off. That's great. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mary Ann Simpson, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the president of the League of Women Voters in the Williamsburg area, Sudie Watkins. I am a co-chair of voter services for our local league. And as I'm sure you know, the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization of women and men, happy to say, who neither support nor endorse any political party or candidate. Our mandate is to educate and inform voters and to encourage them to participate fully in all levels in the voting process. And I'm here to heartily endorse the establishment of a satellite voting center at the James City County Recreation Center. We are aware of the likely massive increase in absentee voting and early voting in this November's election. There is a desperate need for resources, both financial and human, to handle this wave, and moving to the rec center will give added space to set up proper in-person early voting, as well as greater parking facilities for voters. The sheer numbers of voters would overwhelm the space at Palmer Lane, so there's no doubt the satellite location is necessary to ensure a fair and well-run election. Many of our league members have assisted our local director of elections, Diana Mormon, and her staff on election day as poll workers. And this experience, as you say, is invaluable. It's a chance to see an efficient and professionally run election. Every detail is well thought out and meticulous. Election security is paramount, and poll workers under Ms. Mormon's training take their roles with great care. And as anyone can attest, it is a very long day. But the accuracy and integrity of the vote always comes first. I heartily encourage anyone who has not worked an election to sign up now. You are needed, and the experience is one for every citizen. We are very lucky here in James City County to have a superb director of elections in Diana Mormon, as well as her very hardworking staff. But they'll need your support and resources in this next election to maintain the reputation she's built both here and nationally for James City County. As you are likely aware, the governor and the Virginia Board of Elections have passed down pages and pages of new legislative and regulatory requirements for the November election, and many must be implemented in less than 30 days. Please support this satellite center and dedicate all necessary resources to make the November election a success here in James City County. Thank you.
Okay, no other speakers. We'll close the public hearing, and I will look to the board for a motion on our ordinance.
Chairman, I move the adoption of the ordinance creating a center for absentee.
Motion to approve.
Okay. We had competing motions, but we'll pick one. So we have a motion on the floor. Mr. Stevens, please call the roll.
Mr. McGlinnan.
Aye.
Ms. Larson.
Aye.
Ms. Sadler.
Aye.
Mr. Hippel.
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's see. We will
Need a motion to adjourn
But yeah,
until?
unless you guys have, I'm going to give everybody a chance to say their two bits before we go to next week, so.
Mr. Chairman, let me just, I'll just take the opportunity to comment on the passing of one of distinguished citizens of the Williamsburg area, Lois Hornsby. Ms. Hornsby passed away last week and certainly left her stamp on so much of the good in the community without ever trying to attract attention to herself. She, by her actions, was a force for good and social justice and education in so many different areas, and set such an example that her children and in-laws have replicated to the benefit of our community. So to the entire Hornsby family, to Bruce and Kathy and Bobby and Ann and John, I extend condolences and suggest that she will long be remembered in this community.
Ruth?
Nothing.
Sue, do you have anything?
No, the only thing I would like to mention is I'm constantly being, sorry, I've got echoing things going on here, that people are reporting to me that they're having yard signs, political yard signs stolen from the yards. And I think that we need to just put the word out to folks that you can be in opposition to a politician, somebody running for office, and we don't have to stoop to that level. So respect people's property and put up your own signs for however you believe, but you need to stay off people's property, please, and leave their signs alone. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Sue. The only thing I would add is that I did attend a meeting with the chamber today. We had Senator Kane and Congresswoman Luria come in. Terry Banyas and Vicky Cimino from the chamber were there. We had Sherry Green, the chair of the Alliance, Julie Sims, Kevin Lemke from Bush Gardens, and Chad Green from York County as well. So we had an opportunity to express our concerns about businesses and trying to, with the impact in the long term, and to what help we can get. And I passed along our standard request that whatever we get in the way of CARES type money, that we'd like to have some flexibility to be able to use for some revenue replacement, and specifically that if they could do something about extending that December 30th deadline so that we had more time to use it all. So we did get an opportunity to have that expressed, and a lot of good back and forth between our business community and these representatives to try to deal with some of the problems that they're seeing there. And that's all I have. And with that, I'll look for a motion to adjourn until 5 p.m. on September the 8th for a regular meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion, Mr. Stevens?
Mr. McGlennon?
Aye.
Ms. Sadler?
Aye.
Ms. Larson?
Aye.
Mr. Hippel?
Aye.
Mr. Eisenhower?
Aye.
Motion carries.
We are adjourned.